If you've watched any of my previous videos, you've probably noticed that I've brought up The Last of Us quite a few times. And it wasn't just for comparison's sake, because all I've talked about on my channel thus far is TV series on streaming services based on immensely popular video game franchises. Wasn't a part of my plan, it's just how it's turned out. But the real reason I bring up The Last of Us so often is because, well, I fucking love The Last of Us. Yes, that does include Part 2. Part 1, though, was such an impactful video game experience for me because it was the game that really got me into video games back when I first played it back in like 2014. Jesus fucking Christ, is that how long it's been? I mean, didn't get me wrong, I'd always liked video games, but I only really liked my comfortable wee circle of video games. I was always very apprehensive about trying certain types of games that I was afraid I wouldn't like. Not necessarily because I was scared of them or anything, but whenever I would hear something like survival horror, stealth, or resource management, my brain would immediately get horrible flashbacks to the early days of playing a video game like Resident Evil and just being completely fucking decimated before finding the first box of shotgun ammo. All the while thinking, how the fuck does a quote-unquote small key take up the same amount of inventory space as a fucking grenade launcher? But The Last of Us is really what opened up my curiosity to other stuff, and even the idea of going back and giving other things a chance. And since then, I've played so many things I didn't think I would ever even give a chance. I played this game to death when I was in school. I would not shut up about it, and I even forced people I knew who weren't into games to backseat it. And despite the initial passive-aggressive nature of pressuring a family member to watch me play a video game for several hours looking like a case of emotionally manipulative elder abuse, it was worth it in the end because I have successfully converted people to Last of Us fans. So when they announced that it was going to be adapted into a television series with the co-writer of Scary Movie 3, Craig Mazin, at the helm...
Damn it, George, when are you gonna do something with your life?
I got a dream.
What is your dream?
To have a dream.
He was also the showrunner on that pretty good Chernobyl series that came out a few years ago. But suffice to say, I was really excited for this series. And despite being a bit skeptical upon my first watch and still having some minor gripes with it overall, I did wind up thoroughly enjoying it in the end, and I have developed a greater appreciation for it over time, especially after watching things like Fallout and Arcane. But this is really what I was interested in seeing. Now look, I'm not saying that adapting the first Last of Us game or making a television show in general would be any sort of easy task, because it definitely isn't. But I was fairly confident, given the amount of talent surrounding the project, that the story of the first game could be comfortably adapted into a 9-episode series, and for the most part it completely works. But the second game is a completely different case. Part 2 has a much more demanding story and unorthodox structure that, if adapted into a television format, would absolutely require significant alterations to be made. Much more so than Part 1. Honestly, I think that was, in hindsight, part of my issue watching Season 1. The whole time I was watching it over the course of 9 weeks, I was thinking in the back of my head, aye, this is all good and well done and well executed and stuff, but what the fuck is your plan for when you get to Part 2? And after 2 years, it's finally here. Well, the first of 7 episodes. Fucking hell, it's not even necessarily the complete picture, because they've already confirmed that they're splitting the events of Part 2 over the course of multiple seasons, so I'm still going to be in the same position by the end of the next few weeks. Also, by the way, as I'm talking about this, I'm going to try and keep things vague and only talk about the game in relation to the episode in question, just in case you happen to have only viewed the television series. But regardless, we're off to a very interesting start, where right away we're switching up the structure a bit by introducing us to Abby as one of the remaining Fireflies that Joel terminated at the end of Season 1. And she really wants to kill Joel. I mean, I imagine all of them do to a degree, but Abby has a particular chip on her shoulder for some reason. In the game, Abby's character and motives are much more of a mystery for a huge portion of the game. And to be fair, they don't actually give you her entire motivation here. And honestly, it's not that hard to put the pieces together yourself. When I first played Part 2, I was able to come to a fairly decent, vague conclusion as to who she was and what her motives were, and the game gives you even less information than the show does at this point. So your earliest inference probably isn't too far off. I'm already really liking Caitlin Dever in this role. I love her as a casting decision. I was a bit disappointed when they decided not to bulk Abby up for this version, because one, big muscular Abby was a source of so many people getting pissed off, and I just found that funny. I was actually hoping they'd go the extra mile and make her even bigger and piss more people off by casting somebody like Katie O'Brien. But in all seriousness, Abby's imposing physique in the game is a visual reminder of Abby's obsession and determination in her mission. She spends years turning herself into a weapon in her pursuit of Joel, thinking that she's going to need all the power she can get, because as far as she's concerned, from her perspective, Joel is basically John fucking Wick. So it is admittedly a bit disappointing that they have decided to omit that part of her character. It is interesting now, though, that she has pretty much the same frame as Ellie. So should these characters cross paths, they're going to appear like they're a bit more evenly matched. I'm getting ahead of myself though. But the lack of buys and tries doesn't necessarily mean that Caitlin Dever can't give this character so much. She only has one crucial scene in this episode and I can already feel so much intensity. She's a terrific actor and has so much versatility. Watch Booksmart and then watch Unbelievable. It's night and day. She was one of the earliest casting decisions for Ellie back when it was being pitched as a movie. And by the time the TV series had been greenlit, she'd pretty much aged out of the role of a 14-year-old Ellie. She did have a small role in Uncharted 4 though, which is interesting. So she has been connected to this for quite some time. And as soon as I heard that she was announced as Abby for season 2, I was like, oh yes, this feels right. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more discussions surrounding Miss Abigail Anderson in the second episode when things truly kick off. Or tee off rather. So Joel and Ellie have been living in Jackson for about 5 years now. There's this unspoken rift between the two of them, which if you've played the game, you'll know the reason why. Unlike the first game, Part 2 uses a much more non-linear, broken up structure to tell its story and reveals information to you much slower, which was actually one of the big reasons as to why it was so divisive. In the lead up to this, I was actually really scared that they might just tell Joel and Ellie's story chronologically. I don't really know why I came to that conclusion. Maybe it was just the amount of episodes and the fact that they said they were splitting the story across multiple seasons. But regardless, that doesn't seem to be the case. Just like in the game, it's left ambiguous as to what exactly has happened in the 5 years between season 1 and season 2. Like I said earlier, they have restructured some stuff, such as the dance party, which doesn't occur until towards the end of the game in the form of a flashback. Although, I will say, that was some of the earliest footage we ever saw from The Last of Us Part 2 because it was a part of the 2018 gameplay trailer. Fucking hell, I really need to stop specifying dates. It's getting really depressing. The difference is though, when it happens in the game, you know the reason that they are on bad terms with each other. Whereas here, we don't, which I find quite interesting. In the game, the scene is much more of a gut punch because you have all of the context, and here it's establishing more of a mystery as to what's going on between them. Because one could, up to this point, make the argument that Ellie's just being a bit angsty and trying to be more independent, wanting to stand up for herself. But saying,
"What is wrong with you? I don't need your fucking help,"
in response to what seemed like a genuine, if a bit misguided attempt to defend you, is a bit of a strong reaction. So there is very clearly more going on than meets the eye. I do like seeing Ellie do fight training though. Like, I always assumed that this was something that happens in Jackson, because, you know, if they have gun training and people going on patrols regularly and the such, surely they would have some sort of like CQC training. But I also like it because it makes sense for Ellie to want to learn how to use her smaller and more nimble frame advantageously in a fight, given all the shit she's been through in the past. But there's still that reminder that even that can only protect you so much to a certain degree. I do love her just standing smiling with a bloodied nose like she's Becky Lynch or something. Like, what a wee hard arse. We do get a wonderful display of her physical prowess when she and Dina go on their patrols and deal with some infected. And this is one of those moments where I just feel like they're trying to appeal to me. They employ some of the game's mechanics where Dina uses listen mode, they do a bit of stealth walking, Ellie uses a bottle to distract a clicker, and we get a recreation of my favourite kill animation from the game. My favourite scene of the whole episode though has to be the stalker scene. Stalkers are these spooky and extremely fucking annoying enemy types that like to run away and hide and try and sneak up on you. Say what you want about clickers and bloaters and shit, at least they let you know where the fuck they are. But these creepy wee cunts, they're like, no, I'm gonna try and play the game that you're playing, pal. It is interesting that no one seems to know of stalkers or their behaviour and seem to be new to people's knowledge. In the game, they're the second stage of infection between runners and clickers, so in this version of events, are they the new deadlier breed of infected, or are stalkers just much more of a rarity to come by because they're always hiding away somewhere and by the time they come out to play, they're already clickers by that point? Either way, it makes for an incredibly creepy scene. I love it when Ellie loads the shotgun thinking that the noise will draw out whatever's in the room with her, and she just has this complete look of confusion on her face when nothing happens. The way the stalker just quickly enters and exits frame as Ellie walks past cover, and the fucking stare down they have before Ellie tries to employ the Dutch Schaefer technique.
Run at me, fucker.
Do it. Do it.
Run at me!
Come on, kill me. I'm here. Come on, do it now. Kill me.
She winds up getting bit on the stomach before she manages to kill her stalker, and it's a nasty detail, but I actually like how she covers the bite, making it look more like just, you know, a typical scar, I suppose, by playing connect the dots with the teeth marks. It makes me wonder just how many times she's actually done this. In the game, you do find out that she used a chemical burn of sorts to cover up the bite mark on her arm before she eventually got her iconic tattoo. I'm sure that'll come up soon enough though. I like how we're introduced to Dina with a very clever little fake out.
Hey.
Hey, kiddo.
I see what you did there. It is nice to see Joel interacting with Dina though. They never do in the game, not on screen anyway. You hear about Joel's interactions with others through Ellie and other people just talking about him. So it is interesting to actually see how Joel interacts with Ellie's peers. And even though Dina does seem to be genuinely taking an interest in Joel's life and activities, he's probably just trying to get some insight into Ellie through Dina. I do find it very cute how Dina is quietly trying to mend the rift between Joel and Ellie.
You know, those movies Joel likes?
Yeah, I know.
I was actually gonna maybe watch them tomorrow night with him, if you want to join.
Ellie and Dina are great as well. I like how we've started just before they're a thing. In the game, we're introduced to them post-saliva exchange at the party. But here, we get to see them as friends before they become friends.
Friends?
I think Bella Ramsey and Isabella Merced have terrific chemistry. They ping off each other really well, and it's a source of some adorable and funny moments.
Did you get bit? Did I have to shoot you in the face?
Not today.
This should make it all the more fun when we get much later in the season and the proverbial shite hits the propeller. Apparently Joel is making an attempt to work through these issues by going to therapy with Kevin's mum. This is a new thing that I don't know how I feel about just yet. I don't mind the idea of Joel giving therapy a try in an attempt to better connect with Ellie. If he felt like he was running out of options, I reckon he'd try asking somebody else for advice. I mean, of course, Joel being Joel, he is just completely avoiding the actual issue and just looking for affirmation. You know, the proper way to do therapy. But this all becomes very strange when we learn that Joel apparently murdered her husband Eugene. Eugene in the game is a character you never meet, but you hear quite a lot about through Ellie and Dina. He was the local drug dealer and known porn addict.
Dong of the Wolf. Smash Brandy's cooch. Are these? It's porn. Interesting taste, Eugene.
He used to be a firefly and he was close with Tommy. Apparently he was a bit of a loner, but people seem to like him. They say he died of a stroke, presumably while watching Jackin' It in Daxter, or Smash Brandy's Cooch 2, Cortex Sucks Blood. But here, apparently Joel's the one who killed him. And Gail is aware of this, so I would have to assume that others are aware of this. Does it have something to do with the fact that he was a firefly? Regardless of what the reasoning for the murder was, I'd find it very strange that Joel would willingly seek emotional support from a woman whose husband he murdered and she clearly resents him for it. I don't know, this is one of those things I'm just going to need a lot more elaboration and context for before I can figure out how I feel. It's all too up in the air at this point. Overall though, my attention is thoroughly held and I am looking forward to the weeks ahead. It's looking like episode 2 might be pretty fucking wild and quite action heavy. Earlier in the episode we're shown that the fungal tendrils are growing out of a pipe in Jackson. This will be part of that hive mind concept that they introduced in season 1. My guess is that there's just dozens of infected beneath the snow, and at some point in episode 2 someone or something is going to trigger that, and that's what's going to cause chaos. And then certain parties are going to cross paths, and then we shall see.